The following program is an original production of WICC PBS Chicago.
Just last month, Chicago was named the most bike-friendly city in the U.S. But so far this year, 11 cyclists have been killed and many more injured.
And got hit from the left, and after that, I woke up in the hospital.
How can we safely share the roads? The City of Chicago and Cook County 2017 budget proposals are out and causing quite a stir. The biggest shock, a county tax on sweetened beverages like soda and sports drinks. And Chicago Cubs fans come in all ages. Just ask this 14-year-old superfan. She's a season ticket holder and knows everyone on the team. That's all tonight on In the Loop. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lauren Cohn. And for the first time, Chicago has overtaken New York as the best city for biking in the country. Bicycling Magazine has just awarded Chicago that distinction. It comes as Mayor Emanuel has pushed an ambitious plan costing millions of dollars to make Chicago even more bike-friendly. But accidents involving bikers are also on the rise. 11 cyclists have already been killed in Cook County this year. And as our Chris Bury reports, biking in the Second City is not for the faint of heart.
Malik Gardner knows well the promise and the peril of biking in Chicago. The 23-year-old rides about 20 miles a day to and from his job at a bike shop in Woodlawn. He also worked as a bike messenger, a job that led to the crash that nearly killed him. In 2015, a truck smashed into Gardner as he rode in the West Loop.
I got hit by something, and I woke up in the hospital, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't move from the waist down. My pelvis was fractured. I couldn't walk for about a month. I was really injured, traumatized.
Chicago's efforts to make the city more bike-friendly for riders like Gardner are also aimed at making it safer.
You know, Chicago has really been doing more than just about any other city in terms of promoting biking, building protected bike lanes like the one that we're standing next to right here on Dearborn.
Jim Merrill works for the Active Transportation Alliance, a group that advocates for bikers in Chicago.
These protected bike lanes with actual physical separation have been proven in Chicago and elsewhere to really improve the safety of folks on bicycles.
The city has now built more than 100 miles of bike lanes costing about $13 million. Nearly 90 miles have some kind of buffer from other traffic, and about 20 miles are protected by barriers.
It's helping because it designates a place for the cyclists to be on the road. And that designated place should be aware for the motorists.
The city says barriers are making a difference. At this one on 55th Street in Hyde Park, crashes are down by a third since it was built in 2012. But the bike lanes have also led to a backlash from drivers. They mean less room for cars and trucks. Tribune columnist John McCarran says many of the bike lanes are poorly designed.
We're just grabbing a vehicle lane, painting it green, putting some rubber, hose barriers between it and the cars and calling it a bike lane. But what about the 98% who are still commuting in their cars and have just lost a lane?
About 18,000 Chicagoans now commute to work on bikes. That's only about 2% of all commuters, but triple the number of bikers in 2000. And that surge has led to tension, if not bitterness, among bikers, drivers, and pedestrians.
People need to be a lot more mindful, not just bikers, but also the drivers themselves and the walkers. Yeah, we all walk around with earbuds in, and that's very dangerous, so you just got to pay attention.
Well, it's good for the city, but there seems to be a lack of concern or safety on the bikers themselves. Even today, I was driving to work, and there was one young woman just biking, and she just went through every red light, every stop sign, and in between cars indiscriminately, and it was scary for her.
These memorial ghost bikes scattered around the city are vivid reminders of how dangerous it can be to ride a bicycle in Chicago. This one in Roscoe Village is in honor of 23-year-old Anastasia Kondrasheva. She was the 6th cyclist killed in Chicago this year. Accidents involving bikers in Chicago have jumped 28% since 2005. On average, 6 bikers are killed and 1,500 injured every year in Chicago. And traffic enforcement of cyclists is spotty. Between 2006 and 2015, Chicago police issued only 410 citations for bikers running red lights, or 43 tickets a year on average.
Just as a practical and logistical matter, if I'm a police officer working traffic and I'm have my eyes on a certain intersection, to stop a cyclist who has no registration, who has no license, and to write him a ticket, it seems to me it would be sort of a troublesome logistical problem for the officer.
In Chicago, bikers don't need to pass an elementary rules of the road test, apply for a license, or register their bikes. Proposals to require registration and a $25 fee have hit a brick wall at City Hall.
I think that cyclists should be educated and trained and have to meet certain standards, sort of the rules of the road test.
But cycling advocates oppose any licensing or registration in Chicago.
It would be very costly to implement. The money that a licensing program would bring in wouldn't really cover the cost of the program itself. And we think it's better to focus on things that are proven to work, like education programming in our schools, enforcement of the traffic laws, and building out that infrastructure that's safe and easy to use for everybody.
City planners agree that the benefits of cycling, reducing congestion, improving air quality, and encouraging exercise far outweigh the costs of building a bike-friendlier city. But as tensions rise between bikers and drivers, veteran cyclist Malik Gardner has some common sense advice for both.
Just be aware. Be aware that there are a lot of cyclists in the world and they're out there every single day, even if it's cold, even if it's raining. Just to be aware, and acknowledgement is one of the main keys for safety out there. Acknowledge each other. Acknowledge each other.
Joining us from her office in downtown Chicago, Rebecca Scheinfeld, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
The good news, of course, Chicago's been named the best biking city of 2016. The bad news is still can be a dangerous place. We've had 6 bicyclists killed already this year. Why is Chicago still so dangerous for bicyclists?
We are really proud of the improvements we've made to improve bicycling safety in the city. Under Mayor Emanuel's leadership, we have made significant investments in our bicycling infrastructure, which has made bicycling more of a safe option for people throughout the city of all ages and abilities. Under Mayor Emanuel's leadership, for example, we've built out over 100 miles of protected bike lanes, including both barrier-protected bike lanes as well as striped buffered bike lanes. And this is making it more comfortable for people to ride wherever they're living, for their daily commute, to get to school, or for recreation.
At the same time, between 2009 and 2013, looking at the numbers, realizing that there's more bike traffic, still bicycle accidents have gone up by about 18%. So it's still not the safest city.
So we've actually seen tremendous growth in biking. So now only almost 2% of people bike on a daily basis for their commute. And so that's up really 300% in the last decade. And in that same time, you have not seen the same increase in traffic safety issues related to biking. So while the numbers of bicyclists on the road are increasing dramatically, you don't see a commensurate increase in bicycle fatalities.
We've all seen bicyclists blow through stop signs, blow through red lights. Is this a city that winks at violations by bicyclists?
Certainly not. Traffic safety is something that every user of the right-of-way has to take seriously. Whether you're walking, biking, or in a car, you need to follow the rules of the road.
So do bikers have to stop at stop signs?
Bikers have to stop
and red lights?
At red lights, and bikers are treated like other users of moving vehicles. So they are also obligated to stop at stop signs. Now, the physics of a bike often mean that bicyclists prefer not to stop at stop signs. And so considering that, we also are thinking about how we're designing our bikeways. We have about 245 miles of on-street bikeways in the city now. And one thing that we've been doing more of is what we call greenways. So recognizing that bicyclists are more likely to yield at a stop sign than take a full stop, We have installed different greenways where you actually have small traffic circles that forces bicyclists to slow down and forces the eye-to-eye interaction between bicyclists, motorists, and pedestrians to improve safety at intersections, in some cases, which are much more effective than stop signs themselves.
Do we need more aggressive police enforcement? I mean, looking at some of the statistics of drivers or bicyclists cited for going through red lights, it's very small. I mean, averaging about 40 a year. Do Chicago police need to cite bicyclists more often? Do they need to be more aggressive?
Again, traffic safety is an issue across the city. You're actually seeing many more people dying and violating traffic laws that are in motor vehicles than bicyclists or pedestrians. But all users of the right-of-way have a responsibility to follow the law. Enforcement is just one way that we can change behavior, but changing behavior is really the goal. We do that through enforcement, we do that through education and outreach, and we do that through engineering, through how we design our right-of-ways. So through those combined efforts, we can achieve a safer space for people to walk or bike or drive through.
Should Chicago require bicyclists to pass the basic rules of the road in order to get some kind of a registration or a license that shows that they know what the rules are?
Some type of bike registration is something that has been proposed before. And again, it is really about awareness and education and following the rules of the road so that everyone can move safely in the right-of-way. The city has launched a Vision Zero effort, which is part of an international movement to change the way we address traffic safety and to consider that every traffic crash is a preventable incident. It's not an accident that is inevitable. And we'll be launching a new 3-year plan that is set to come out before the end of the year, which will identify specific goals and strategies to achieve the goal of 0 traffic fatalities and serious injuries. So the discussion of registration of bicyclists or other types of improved driver education, bicyclist education, mobility education, if you will, that is part of the policy discussions and intergovernmental coordination discussions that we're having.
Some aldermen have proposed that the city register bikers, charge them $25 so that money helps fund the improvements that you're making for bikers. Why isn't that just a reasonable idea? The administration has opposed it.
It's certainly something that has been discussed. One of the challenges is the administrative costs of such a process and making sure that you would charge something that is realistic in terms of ability to pay versus the cost of administering a program. You certainly don't want to be discouraging people from choosing a transportation option that in many ways is healthier and that is safer and more environmentally friendly and a way to address our limited road capacity when we're dealing with so much congestion in the city. So those are balancing.
The trade-off there between the better environmental factors versus the $25 or so that someone would have to pay?
We want to be encouraging active transportation options to make sure that all Chicagoans have safe, affordable, and effective transportation options wherever they live in this city.
We have a new law taking effect in January in Illinois that basically treats bicyclists and vehicles the same. What are the practical impacts of that law going to be?
Bicyclists have the right to use the roadway just like motorists. And I think it actually is a misperception that many motorists think bicyclists are only allowed to go on bike lanes. We would hope it's part of an overall change in understanding and perception about the importance of sharing the road for both bicyclists and motor vehicle drivers.
So as we wrap up here, what cautionary advice do you have to both motorists and cyclists who are trying to get by in this very congested, crowded city?
Be mindful of the rules of the road, be aware of your surroundings, and look out for each other. Be conscious of pedestrians, bicyclists, motor vehicles, especially those most vulnerable users of our roadway, those being pedestrians, the elderly, and young children, or those that are in wheelchairs or otherwise disabled. It's important that we all share the space safely so everyone can get to their destination safely and on time.
All right, Rebecca Scheinfeld, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for that story, Chris. And for area residents, the new year could ring in new taxes on soda, plastic bags, and car services such as Lyft and Uber. Those new charges are contained in the new budget plans from Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle and Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. But are they balancing their budgets on the backs of consumers? Buying sweetened beverages in Cook County could be more expensive starting in July. Cook County President Toni Preckwinkle is proposing a penny per ounce tax on soda and other sweetened drinks. Calling it a difficult but necessary choice, Preckwinkle says the tax increase could stave off layoffs and close a $174 million budget deficit. But some Cook County residents, like Maritza Castillo and Sean Crawley, feel customers are already feeling the pain with higher property taxes, water and sewer fees, and the county's own sales tax hike approved last year.
I think it's ridiculous that they want to tax us, honest to God. We are overtaxed already, and it's just ridiculous how even to get a bottle of water, you're paying an outrageous amount of tax.
I won't consume or be able to purchase the types of soda that I like and or the quantity that I like.
Preckwinkle's plan is expected to generate $74 million, and she adds the measure would also protect people's health.
Taxing sweetened beverages can lower obesity, type 2 diabetes, and tooth decay.
But some consumers aren't buying it and see the nod to healthy living as a smokescreen to justify more taxes.
I think everyone should have their own opinion as to what they want to consume.
I should be responsible for my health, just the same way they try to, put responsibility on seatbelts, where it's actually my choice whether or not I want to wear my seatbelt.
The new tax would include carbonated soft drinks, fruit beverages, sports drinks, and energy drinks. It excludes water and drinks made from 100% juice. This means the price of a 2-liter bottle of soda that costs 99 cents would increase to $1.66. In addition to saving jobs, Preckwinkle says part of the new revenue generated will go towards public safety initiatives.
Today, I am presenting to you a budget unlike any other we have seen in recent memory in Chicago.
And Chicago residents could face even more tax hikes. During the budget address to City Council last week, Mayor Emanuel proposed a 7 cents per bag tax on disposable bags provided at grocery stores, a $14 hourly parking rate to use loading zones in certain areas, and a $4 hourly rate for parking meters around Wrigley Field during Cubs games.
I don't know what the city is going to do as far as reducing taxes or increasing some other source of income for us to try to live off of, because just eating alone now has become unaffordable.
The Cook County Board and Chicago City Council are expected to vote on the proposed budgets in mid-November. Joining us now are Cliff Kelly, journalist and radio host for WVON, and Amara Enya, public policy consultant. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Are we balancing the budget on the backs of consumers, Amara?
Yes, we indeed are. I think this most recent budget, both at the city and county level, is fraught with additional taxes, fines, and fees. One number that hasn't been thrown out is the $25.4 million that the city hopes to collect this year, just in additional fees that residents will pay across the board, from getting permits to all of those different quality of life issues. We're really seeing an increase. So yes, indeed, we are.
Cliff, one of the biggest controversies is the sweetened beverage tax. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction to that?
Well, from a health standpoint, it's a good thing. However, what's going to happen on that, those commissioners who represent districts that are abutting the other counties, they're going to, the people there are going to obviously go and buy their beverages somewhere else. And I'm sure those commissioners will vote against it. But I think we are nickel and diming, literally, the people. We've got the largest property tax we've ever had in the city of Chicago. And then when you look at what we're getting for it, we close schools, we close mental health clinics. The quality of life is getting worse, yet it costs more to live here. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Let me tap in, though, to the health issue, because on the one side we talk about, well, it may promote better health. On the other side, the government has been deciding we were going to tax sweetened beverages, but there's a lot of other foods out there that have sugar.
Exactly.
So, Amar, should the government be picking and choosing?
I think we just have to be honest about it. At the end of the day, this is about revenue for the city and for the county. The government can not really play that role of trying to say that this is about health, because it really isn't. People will make individual decisions about what kinds of drinks, what kinds of foods that they want to purchase, and where do you draw the line? Now it's sugary drinks, but I remember when they increased the tax on cigarettes, and what that did is people began to go across the border to purchase their cigarettes. Do we put a tax on fried foods? I mean, that's a significant health issue in our community, and yet there's no tax for that yet. So again, this is about revenue. This is about making sure that how do we make sure that our city and our county are solvent without directly negatively impacting the quality of life of our residents.
And there are other ways to do it, such as the TIF funds, the tax. There are other ways to do this. So I hope the budget for the city of Chicago is ridiculous when you consider what kind of services we're getting and what's going on here. If they only would say, we don't have to continue to pay people when police are shooting folks and we're giving them all kinds of money for it, that would help a lot. There are so many problems that need to be,
Well, and it's a good point that you brought that up, because we just heard from Mayor Emanuel that he wants to bring in 1,000 police officers. The question is, how are we going to pay for it?
Where's the money coming from?
Exactly.
Yes.
So let me show an ad to you, though, from the Cook County Against Beverage Tax. Take a look at this and we'll get your reaction.
What do Cook County taxpayers think of another proposed beverage tax?
Residents shouldn't be paying the bill for Cook County mismanagement of funds.
Let's send a message to Cook County officials.
Cook County residents just don't have any more money to give to the government.
They're already struggling.
This tax will take millions of dollars.
No, it's interesting you hear the words everybody's struggling, and we heard earlier in the package, people can't afford to buy food, and this is the route we're going out of our pockets in terms of taxes.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. We're not taking into account the fact that wages across the board nationally have remained stagnant. So it's not as though people's incomes are increasing to allow them to pay these additional taxes, fines, fees, and forfeitures. And so we're really feeling it. Last year, we increased property taxes $543 million. So that's just now being phased in. The water and sewer tax increase, which will affect residents moving forward. We had the garbage tax of $10 essentially per month that's hitting residents. And yet what we're not seeing is an increase in the quality of services. We're not seeing a lot of the issues that we've seen, whether it's with police, whether it's with the quality of our schools and school funding. We're not seeing the benefits that our tax dollars are supposed to manifest for us, and that's a point of contention.
7 cents on a plastic bag. So will you bring your own bags, Cliff?
That's what I was going to say next. Exactly. When I say nickel and diming, that is really it. I mean, how far do we go? How difficult would it be to try to get somebody to move into Chicago? I mean, it would be easier to teach a lion to be a vegetarian. Because when you think about what is being offered here, and we're paying more and more for it, 7 cents for plastic bags, I mean, what's next?
But we're talking also about our elected officials, and Preckwinkle is proposing to her board members to offer them $500,000 a year to spend on transportation in their districts for support of the beverage tax. What does that say about our politics?
Well, I have an issue with that only because I believe that residents have a right to a certain quality of life and certain standards, especially when it comes to transportation, that should not be a trade-off for a beverage tax or tax on beverages in their district. We already have in some of our most hardest hit districts lack of transportation access, extending from the city and the county. That should be done because residents already pay taxes. It should not be a trade-off in response to a beverage tax, because at the end of the day, the person that will be hurt or the people that will be hurt are the residents in those specific districts.
And Cliff, final thoughts?
I think that the tax, there are going to be a lot of votes against it, obviously. The best thing we can remember is the fact that we control or we decide whether those people who are going to continue to nickel and dime us are going to be reelected. We've got elections coming up, and taxpayers are tired of this. And I think people would say, it's all right, Lauren, as long as we get the service. You're not getting the service. So to increase taxes, yet less service, makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us. Great points. Once again, thanks to our guests, Cliff Kelly and Amara Enya. The Chicago Cubs are currently tied with the Los Angeles Dodgers in the race for the National League pennant. Many hopefuls are saying it's the Cubs' year to bring it all home, including one dedicated superfan. In many ways, Natalie Adorno is a typical high school freshman at Guerin College Prep. She balances her days at school with homework, friends, and volleyball practice. Like many, she is a Cubs fan, but in that regard, she is anything but typical.
Get your program scorecard.
Adorno's love of the Chicago Cubs started early, a passion inherited from her parents. When she was 11, they bought season tickets, and she got a chance most fans only dream of.
They had picked me to say play ball in the press box, and then from then on, like, everyone started recognizing me.
Soon, the little girl with the big love for the Cubs was spreading her enthusiasm around Section 527. An area once filled with strangers is now a family to her. She was even given the nickname Superfan-807. And when she created a Twitter account to share her experiences at games, she became an instant celebrity.
Then the players started recognizing me more, so then they started tweeting me, and so did the Cubs organization.
My #1 fan, how you doing? What's going on?
But being a super fan in the fickle world of social media hasn't always been easy for Adorno. 3 years ago, a disgruntled fan took to Twitter, bringing controversy to her enthusiasm by calling her cheering annoying.
I don't think I cheer too loud. Let's go Fowler! We're outside and we're at a ball game. I think we're supposed to cheer.
And just like the Cubs, Adorno hasn't given up, continuing to cheer and tweet. And this year, she gained even more recognition as the 2016 Cubs Fan of the Year.
This is the bat I got for being the Cubs Fan of the Year that I recently won.
From Wayne Messmer's hat, Ernie Banks' autograph, and Travis Wood's jersey, all given by the players themselves, Adorno has earned quite a collection and a name for herself.
I called Rizzo over to ask him to sign for me, and then he asked me how to spell my name. He was like N-A-T, and then I realized that, oh, he knows my name, the players actually know me now.
How you doing? Good, how about you? You on TV?
Yeah!
Adorno has also earned her place among sportscasters.
Superfan Natalie, the Mount Rushmore of Cub fans. Is that Natalie? Yeah.
And recently, she landed on the front page of the newspaper. This year is different, she says. The curse of the once lovable losers has been crushed in her mind by fresh faces on the team and a management that has taken them so far in recent years. And as the tension of the series builds, Adorno brings the innocence of a new generation to her beloved team, a heart that is a reminder to never give up and the belief that this could be the year for the Chicago Cubs. Go Cubs, and we hope the Cubs will continue to bring it tonight. Now, the Cubs are 2 wins away from going back to the World Series since 1945. And if they win it all, it will be the first World Series title since 1908. We wish them luck. And that concludes tonight's show. And you are now in the loop. To hear more of Chris Bury's interview with Rebecca Scheinfeld, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation, about bike safety in Chicago, log on to our website, wycc.org, and search for the link to In the Loop. And there you can also find out more about tonight's stories and our guests. So until next week, for Chris Bury, I'm Lauren Cohn. Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.